get going.
All right, we are live now.
Great. Now, Denise, are we running the opening or we're just going to go straight to the meeting?
The public comment? No, just go straight to the meeting.
Okay. All right, I'm going to go ahead and start the meeting. Welcome everybody to the MAG Economic Development Committee meeting. I'm David Luna. I'm the chair of the committee. Thank you all for being here. This is an exciting time for us, or an interesting time. Maybe that's probably a better word to say. So thank you everyone for being here. So initially, what I would like to do is go ahead and take a roll call to ensure that we do have a quorum present for the meeting. So when you hear your name, please indicate by saying present. Mayor Alexis Hermosillo.
Present.
Great, thank you. Councilmember Robin Barker.
Present.
Thank you. Mayor Gail Barney.
Present.
Thank you. Stephen Betts.
Present.
Great. Thank you. And Anthony Bradley.
Present.
Great. Paul Cardin.
Present.
Vice Mayor John Crane.
Present.
Angela Creedon.
Present.
Superintendent Greg Donovan. Okay. Councilmember John Edwards.
Present.
Neil Giuliano.
Present.
James Griffith.
Present.
Vice Mayor Betty Guardado.
Present.
Councilmember Brennan Hampton. Sintra Hoffman. Councilmember Randy Keaton.
Present.
Thank you. Jim Kenny. Councilmember Virginia Court.
Present. Virginia Cordy.
Okay.
Present.
Cordy. Thank you, Virginia. Mayor Michael LaVault.
Yes, sir. Present.
Governor Stephen Rowe Lewis.
Present.
Vice Mayor Ray Melnar.
Present.
Mayor Jackie Meck. Councilmember Mike Pineda. Darcy Renfro.
Present.
Okay. Councilmember Terry Rowe. Floyd Rorich.
Present.
Let's see, it's Mark Sanders. Is he part of that?
Present.
Okay, good. Todd Sanders.
Present.
Supervisor Jack Sellers.
Present.
Great. Councilmember Scott September.
Present.
Vice Mayor Nancy Smith. Daniel Spitza.
Present.
Mayor Ana Tovar. Marissa Walker. Bob Worsley.
Present.
Okay, great. Looks like a quorum is now present. The web conference meeting of the MAG Economic Development Committee is now called in order. We're going to item number 2. We're going to begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. If you could join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag, of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God,
indivisible,
liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. So I'm going to request that every member mute your phone when you are not speaking. Members of the public were asked to submit written comments related to this meeting on the MAG website within an hour of the meeting, of the posted time. We have no comments were received, and of course, no comments will be included because no comments were received. Okay, the next item is number 3, approval of the February 4th, 2020 Economic Development Committee meeting minutes. Our next item is to approve the February 4th, 2020 meeting minutes. Does any member of the EDC have any questions or comments on the minutes? No comments?
Move for approval.
Okay, now I need a motion to approve the February 4th, 2020 EDC economic meetings. So
Move for
I
approval.
need you to go ahead and unmute your mics if you would like to go ahead and make the motion.
So moved.
Anyone?
Mike Laval.
Okay,
Second,
thank you.
Mayor Hermosillo.
Okay, made by Michael Navalt and seconded by Mayor Hermosillo. Is there any discussion on that motion? All righty, so we'll need everyone to go ahead and say, I'm going to go ahead through the roster again, and you'll have to indicate by supporting the approval of minutes. So Mayor Alexis Hermosillo,
Aye.
thank you. Councilmember Robin Barker,
Aye.
Mayor Gail Barney,
Aye.
Stephen Betts,
Aye.
Anthony Bradley,
Aye.
Paul Cardin,
Aye.
Vice Mayor John Crane,
Aye.
Angela Creedon,
Aye.
Superintendent Greg Donovan,
Aye.
Councilmember John Edwards,
Aye.
Neil Giuliano,
Aye.
James Griffith,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Betty Guardado,
Aye.
Councilmember Brandon Hampton. Okay, I think he's absent. Central Hoffman. Okay. Councilmember Randy Keating.
Yes.
Thank you, Randy. Jim Kenny. Absent. Councilmember Virginia Corti.
Yes.
Mayor Michael Lavaltte.
Yes.
Governor Stephen Rowe Lewis.
Yes.
Okay. Vice Mayor Ray Melnar.
Aye.
Mayor Jackie Meck. Okay, I think he's absent. Councilmember Mike Pineda. Darcy Renfro.
Aye.
Okay, great. Councilmember Terry Rowe.
Here. Aye.
Okay, great. Floyd Roach
Aye.
and Mark Sanders.
Aye.
Todd Sanders.
Aye.
Supervisor Jack Sellers.
Aye.
Councilmember Scott Stember.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Nancy Smith. Daniel Spitza.
Yes.
Mayor Ana Tovar. I think she's absent. Marissa Walker. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Marissa Walker. And Bob Worsley.
Aye.
I don't think there's anyone in opposition. Anyone in opposition want to voice their opposition? Doesn't sound like there were. Anybody abstaining? Is there anyone that I missed? All right. Looks like the minutes have been approved for the February 4th, 2020 Economic Development Committee meeting. Thank you so much. Now we're going to item number 4, Nicola Corporation. The next item is a report from the Nicola Corporation on Nicola's economic impact on our region, including regional jobs, supporting industries, vehicle and infrastructure technology and policy. Elizabeth Fredheim is head of the business development and national accounts, and she's here to provide us with this report. All right, Elizabeth, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. And again, we really appreciate you all inviting us to present here today. We're excited to be part of Arizona and have some exciting developments to share. So I'll try and go through this somewhat quickly because I want to make sure we have time for questions at the end. So be sure to be thinking of them as we go through. We'll go to the next slide if we can. So for those of you that aren't familiar with Nikola, we are both a vehicle and energy company, and we're very focused on zero emission. And so transforming transportation and, ensuring that not only is it zero emission and good for the planet, that it also is good for business and good for our communities. You can see there that, we're focused on also improving our employees' lives and in general, just leaving the world a better place. We are a key industry player. We have a lot of goals within that and believe that we can contribute again to the communities and the nation in regards to energy security, as the energy that we plan to use in our vehicles can all be produced domestically. A focus on clean energy production, which of course brings jobs along with if you think about all of the production of the current fuels, you're definitely supporting an industry. And then the zero emission vehicle technologies and infrastructure, and we'll go deep into that in subsequent slides, so I won't go too much into it right now. We just went public in the early part of June. We're consider ourselves fairly lucky. The response from the market was very good, almost too good right off the bat. But we're excited to be public and have some new shareholders and definitely a growing interest in the company. We currently have about 400 employees here at the home office in Phoenix, and we just broke ground on our manufacturing facility out in Coolidge last week, and hope to have phase 1 of that up in about the next 12 to 14 months, and then we'll continue to build on that up until we open the full production plant. And some of this is also, it's not only kind of the design and produce. As this is the zero emission industry is still somewhat nascent in different ways, especially when you're taking technologies that have been around for a long time, maybe more on the stationary space, and we're moving them to a mobile environment. And so a lot of that is going to take some R&D to continue to improve those technologies. And so we'll also be opening an R&D center in East Phoenix. Next slide. This gives you an overview of what we do. And as I mentioned, we're both a vehicle and an energy company. So maybe starting on the far right-hand side, we're developing off-road side-by-sides and a watercraft. So the power sports industry, again, both zero emission, all electric vehicles. And then as we look at the two on the left-hand side, we wanted to resolve the chicken and the egg issue where, nobody wanted to build infrastructure until there were vehicles and no vehicles until there was infrastructure. So we are going down the parallel path to develop both to ensure that we can move forward and have each of those sides ready for the other one when it advances. On the left-hand side, we have the Badger that was unveiled earlier this year. It is while it could be a consumer-focused vehicle as a pickup truck and open for consumers to purchase it, of course. Our focus, the first initial thought for that vehicle was more from a commercial or industrial application. So the base model comes as all electric, which has about a 300-mile range. You can extend that range as well as extend things like towing capacity by adding a fuel cell. And then it also has power export capabilities. So, you can run tools or other equipment right off the truck. And then above that are the semi trucks, and I'll talk about those here in the next slide if we want to move forward. So, I know it sounds like we're ambitious, and we are, But we are not doing this on our own. We're finding, world-class companies to partner with and bring this forward. And, there is, pardon the pun, a lot of energy around moving to zero emissions, a lot of momentum, a lot of interest. And so I won't go through all of the companies on here. Several of them are tier one automotive suppliers. Several of them are investors. They're not only partners, they're investors in Nikola. But some of the key ones are Iveco, who is a global manufacturer of commercial vehicles, both bus and heavy-duty trucks. They're part of the Case New Holland family, which is a global manufacturer of both on and off-road vehicles. Bosch has been with us since almost the beginning, again, an investor in the company, and they're involved in several parts of the truck. Hanwha is one of the largest solar panel manufacturers, as well as one of the largest solar project developers in the world. And then Wabco Mali, again, tier one automotive suppliers. Thompson Cat is one of our service partners because, of course, our customers want to be able to service the trucks. Nel is one of the largest electrolyzer companies in the world, and the remainder of the companies are tier one automotive. We can go to the next slide, and then I think pretty quickly to the next one here. Perfect, thank you. So a lot of times as we think about zero emission for transportation, there's this discussion about, will the future be battery or will it be hydrogen? And we really believe both technologies have a place depending on the application or the duty cycle of the customer. So the first truck we'll be bringing to market is the battery electric truck. And we hope to have some of those trucks on the road next year. And you can see the range is up to 300 miles. And then we're also going to be bringing a hydrogen fuel cell vehicle to the market. We'll have some trucks on the road before 2023, but 2023 is when we plan to go to production. So the way we look at the two technologies is, you can see up there, obviously, the distinction in the range of the vehicles. Fuel cell trucks are lighter, and so therefore we can put more energy on board to increase the range of the vehicle. But you might have a shorter range application where fuel cells still make more sense. And the two applications where that can be is if you have a heavy payload, because again, the fuel cell technology is lighter, or if you have a quick turn application. So, you're double shifting your trucks. And so you don't have the hours required to recharge your vehicle. So as I said, we believe both technologies have a place in the future. We'll maybe go to the next slide. This is actually, while I am, I spent the last 10 years leading sustainability for Walmart's supply chain division. And so, my heart is in sustainability. I'm very motivated by, the zero emission, but this is actually what brought me to Nikola, was that they were taking a fresh perspective, a clean sheet design to developing the vehicles. And so you can see there the cockpit of the truck is much more like a Tesla. It's all digital. You can see, hopefully you can see the various screens are going through, the capabilities. And so this allowed us to really rethink the vehicle and make sure we were building it to be most efficient, most reliable, most productive as a zero emission vehicle versus kind of retrofitting a diesel truck. And so we have a lot more controls and sensors on the vehicle, which allows us to have more precise visibility into how the truck is operating and operating the trucks and doing diagnostics and providing customers visibility to what's happening in their fleet. Next slide. We'll go to the next one. Obviously, when you have vehicles, you need to be able to fuel them. On the battery electric side, we anticipate that our customers will, for the most part, put in their own infrastructure because it'll be on their properties. On the fuel cell side, we're creating more of a public infrastructure. And so you can see a rendering of a station below there. We plan to have, we want to make sure for zero emissions from energy creation to consumption. We'll use zero emission power generation wherever we can to convert using electricity to split water, to create the hydrogen, to have on-site hydrogen storage. And that on-site storage, it's about a day to a day and a half worth of capacity. And that's important for a couple of reasons. One, of course, being resiliency. And the second being that we can take interruptible power from the utility. And so that obviously helps lower costs. And if you go back to some of the energy security where we can really help the grid balance because they can turn us on and off as they need with the demands of the rest of the grid. Down below, we do want to promote the hydrogen economy. So our fuel stations will have both heavy duty as well as light duty hydrogen fueling, as well as light and heavy duty fast charging. We'll go to the next slide. These are the station specs. And I do want to emphasize that, hydrogen is starting to come into its own, and countries around the world have announced a focus on building the hydrogen economy. And so technology is changing very, very quickly. And so we expect as we continue to roll out that, our ability, that how we generate the hydrogen will change. Right now, we're looking at building it on site, where we'll generate it on site of the fuel station. To do that, we need to obviously get some economies of scale. So the base station is about 8 tons per day, which can service about 200 trucks per day. Each station will use about 20,000 gallons of water, 22.5 megawatts of power. So not insignificant when you go back to thinking about the fact that the grid can, turn us on or off as they're reaching a peak. And we can use less than 8 acres of land depending on the need. But if we want to have parking and amenities for the drivers, we're more up in the 8 to 10 acres. Next slide, please. This is our roadmap. I talked a little bit in the previous slides. So we hope to have battery electric vehicles on the road as early as next year. And those trucks will be coming from our partners plant in Ulm, Germany. And subsequent to that, we'll start working on our fuel cell, beta and gamma vehicles, and both versions going into full production here in Coolidge in 2023. Next slide. And one more. Thank you. Just wanted to give you all some visibility into some of our policy priorities. The very first one is the expansion of the weight exemption. These trucks, as obviously, diesel has had about 100 years to get more efficient, lighter, smaller, all of that. We still need some time with the zero emission vehicles. Right now, there is a federal weight exemption of 2,000 pounds for battery and natural gas trucks. And so we want to expand that to include all zero emission vehicles, including hydrogen vehicles. And then of course we have to go state by state to get that exemption approved at each state level. We are also hoping to work on increasing that exemption to 5,000 pounds. We're very interested in the alternative fuel vehicle corridors that are being worked on at a federal level and are engaged with some of the groups that are working towards those. Obviously, again, we need some time to bring these technologies to scale to where we can compete without credits or subsidies, but we are, in the early stages working with various governments on various funding mechanisms. And I would say there's kind of a three-legged stool there. There's the vehicle itself, there's the infrastructure, and there's also the generation of the fuel. So looking at mechanisms across those three. We also want to try and focus on, moving to funding mechanisms that allow us to implement and not just kind of do R&D and pilot projects and demonstration projects. So how do we help customers really implement this technology? Electricity pricing, again, whether you're talking about a battery electric truck or a fuel cell electric truck, electricity is a key component of the fuel. And so working on, whether it be the price per kilowatt in charging the truck or creating the hydrogen, but also, things like demand charges so that our customers, don't get surprises when they start, plugging in 10 or 20 vehicles. And then the last piece is streamlining permitting and inspections. The natural gas vehicle group has had some difficulty here in that, as they're trying to build stations or customers are retrofitting their maintenance facilities to be able to service these vehicles, every jurisdiction has different rules of what they want to see to ensure that all of that can happen safely. And of course, we're obviously want everything to, we want to make sure that we're safe with the operation and service of the vehicles, but being able to come to agreement on a standard of that would be obviously very helpful. So with that, I think my next slide is the last one. Would love to open it up for questions, but I do also want to make sure that we extend an invitation if any of you are interested to come to our facility and see these vehicles and learn more. We would definitely love to have you.
Great, thank you for the report, Elizabeth Fretheim. Are there any questions from the membership? This is certainly a very fascinating topic. Any questions from the membership for Elizabeth?
Hi, this is Darcy Renfro. Hi, Elizabeth. I work for the Maricopa Community College District, and we represent 10 colleges throughout Maricopa County. And I'm curious what kinds of workforce needs that you are experiencing or anticipate as you build out your manufacturing facility. I know your office facility is located very close to our district office. And I'm just curious what you anticipate will be some of your needs going forward in getting your operations fully built here in Arizona.
Yeah, and I may have to get back with you on that one at a more detailed level. We recently hired our head of manufacturing, and so he is starting to build out that plan. But definitely as you go forward, we need a lot of experts in that manufacturing area and the engineers, the systems, on the systems side, we have these trucks are pretty complex. And so having people both on the, I showed you the digital picture of the dashboard, helping us to build and create those. We'll have, there was something else that went right in one ear and out the other. In regards to, high voltage and battery, how could I forget that? High voltage in particular is an area that I think we're a little bit concerned about, and not only, in the production, but the service of the vehicles. We are starting to work with some entities on training of technicians. As you can imagine, most of the technicians out there are very familiar with the mechanical trucks, but not as familiar with these, with battery or high voltage, as well as just the electronics on these trucks. I'm sure many of you know with your cars these days, it's pretty hard to raise the roof and get in there and figure out what's wrong with your vehicle. You have to put it up to these more sophisticated diagnostic systems. So, I mean, that's definitely something that more on the service side of the truck, we've started digging into, but be happy to get back to you. We'll connect with our head of manufacturing and get a.
Good. That'd be great.
Any other? Darcy, thanks so much for that question. I was going to actually ask about workforce development and where they're going to be getting their employees to work on these vehicles. Are there any other questions from the membership?
David, this is Bob Worsley.
Okay, Bob.
I just wanted to ask a question about autonomous driving. Is there also an effort inside the company to develop software for that? Interesting. Thank you. Interested in that.
Yeah, absolutely. So the trucks will initially come out with what we call level 2 autonomy, or ADAS, Advanced Driver Assist Systems. So a lot of the things that you probably have on your car now. So you think about the adaptive cruise control, the emergency braking, the lane departure warning, blind spot detection, things like that. But we do have a pathway to level 4 autonomy, which is the more fully autonomous vehicle. Our plan right now is that, we're going to provide the gateway, which will allow us to, we haven't decided fully if we're going to partner with one autonomous system provider or if we are going to leave it more open. Because as you think about these trucks going out to various customers, they want to be able to see and control their fleet kind of, in one view, if you will. And so if, our trucks have one system and most larger fleets will have multiple OEMs in their fleet. And so, as this technology develops, I don't think anybody knows yet just how it will be operated and controlled. And so in order to make sure that, our customers can have one view across the fleet, we're looking at different strategies to work on that. But we definitely, even the early trucks will have the redundant hardware needed for autonomous driving. And then as, the software and the regulations and the liability and the public acceptance, all of those things come to fruition, then we can more easily transition to autonomous capabilities.
Great. Are there any more questions from the membership?
Yes, sir. Mike LaVault, I have a question.
Okay, Mike.
So the systems that run the autonomous vehicles, can we rest easy knowing that they're both hardened and secure?
They definitely will be. They definitely will be. There's a lot of testing, I'm sure, as you know, right now with vehicles on the road where they're learning. It seems that the pathway that most companies are going is that they will initially focus on the highway environment because it is less complex. And obviously there's still opportunities for accidents and things like that, but you don't have kids and dogs and balls and, tons of cars coming out from intersections and things like that on the highway. And so I think the expected transition will be that these trucks can drive autonomously on highway, exit to exit, but that initially, once they leave the highway, a driver would take control until, everybody feels comfortable with the technologies and their capabilities.
All righty. Any other questions from the membership?
One last question, Mr. Chairman. This is Tony
Sure.
Bradley, and Elizabeth, it's good to see you and great presentation. Just trying to get a better understanding of the electricity needs. By my math, it looked like real quick you had 22 megawatts per your charging station. How does that compare? Give us a comparison, how many homes that is. What kind of power are we talking about here?
Yeah, so just to confirm, that's for generating the hydrogen and operating that facility versus charging the vehicles necessarily. We will have high-speed charging, but most of that will be used to generate the hydrogen. The number of homes, I want to say, is an average home kind of, let me do a quick calculation for you here. It's not in. Sorry.
Senator Worsley here. I can help you with that. We have a 28 megawatt power plant that we operate, and it's about up here in the White Mountains. It's 28,000 homes. In Phoenix, it'd be about probably 15 or 20,000 homes.
And that was 28 megawatts?
Yes.
Yeah, so we're I mean, we're obviously pretty close to that. It is a fair amount of electricity use, but but it is interruptible, so that we won't be, we can use the power that's already kind of excess on the grid. And of course, we want to supplement it as much as possible with renewable energy.
Great.
All righty. Thank you so much, Elizabeth. We appreciate you being here and introducing Nicola to the MAG membership. Appreciate it. This item is on the agenda for information and discussion only. Thank you so much. Now we're going to go ahead and, if it's okay with the membership, to move to item number 5. The next item on the agenda is a report from the Arizona Commerce Authority. Andy Lombard, Executive Vice President of Innovation and Venture Development, will provide a report on the Arizona Small Business Bootcamp and Resource Collective. Mr. Lombard.
Thank you, David. It's always great to follow Nikola Motors in my presentations. I am always so impressed with what they've done. I recognize some of the names out there, so hello to those who know me, those that don't. I've been an entrepreneur in the Arizona area since '97. I founded 3 companies, technology-driven companies, then exited those, and have just had the wonderful pleasure of working with the Arizona Commerce Authority for the last 10 years as an advisor, and came on full-time last year to do a number of initiatives. Just in general, before we get into the small business boot camp, because I think it's instructive to see where we've been. After our recessions in the 2009-2010 timeframe, we created out of stimulus growth a number of programs, including the Arizona Innovation Challenge that I helped to create with the Weekday, and a wonderful tech accelerator organization called Venture Ready Accelerator, helps prepare technology companies to move to the next step, which is usually funding, mostly around venture capital. Those programs have taken time. It's when we created those, we said 5 to 10 years, and lo and behold, after 9 years, we've had some incredible success. This has been a record year for technology venture investing. The last 12 months have been phenomenal, including Nikola Motor, by the way, which has just led the way in so many different areas. So we're awfully appreciative of that. We have worked with 110 different technology companies over that period of time. Those companies in this last 9 months have raised $170 million of venture capital investment. And it's just fantastic. We started off our fiscal year in July and are already at $110 million for our next fiscal year. So why I raise that is programs like the Small Business Bootcamp can't just be responses to COVID. If we can try to influence the ability to move those forward to help strengthen our economy. Next slide, please. So on a Saturday morning, one of the many Saturday mornings we have worked over the last 4 months to respond to COVID, Sandra Watson and I had a discussion about the potential of helping small businesses and create some sort of daily touch point with them to help them. And obviously, we knew that small businesses were, for the most part, successful, but many of them had some weaknesses throughout them, even pre-COVID. And then, of course, when the lockdowns and revenue issues occurred, that became an enormous decline. So that Saturday morning, we ideated on a concept of a daily boot camp from 9 to 10 in the morning. And we lifted that boot camp up in 3 days and started our process, which we actually thought was going to end at the end of May, if you can believe that. It's now extended through the end of August. And this presentation will kind of give you some statistics on that, but also where we hope it could go. Next slide. So it's designed for businesses less than 20 employees, and it's not necessarily technical companies only. It's all companies, Main Street companies. As most of you know, we have 106,000 small businesses in the state of Arizona, of which 92,000 are less than 20 employees. So we really wanted to focus on those companies as well as underserved communities, underserved groups throughout that. The idea was a daily session on business topics to help those companies real time with COVID, as well as give informational items away. Next slide. One of the most impressive aspects of this entire initiative was the partnerships that we created in a matter of a few days. We had 63 different partners, and our ask was very, very simple: to get out to their constituents that were running these boot camps, number one. And then number two, to help us with the expertise on the topics. Many of these groups have already been just doing such a great job with small businesses throughout the state, and their content, their subject matter expertise was really what we needed to do. So we put together not just the boot camp on a daily basis, but what we call the resource collective, that we can actually bring together resources on a unified basis to really hit end to end all over the state. And it was just a fantastic thing to see come together. Next slide, please. Thank you. So the Resource Collective, obviously we made it available online. We still do today. It's on our site, which is just a rich site of content. It includes hundreds and hundreds of presentations and videos and decks and guides throughout this. This could be anything from our Safety Thursdays that we ran with the Safety Council, or giving important CARES Act updates, or just general business guides, HR, leadership, business improvement. Next slide. So in addition, this is not obviously a full what did we do at the ACA for COVID response. I think that would take quite a bit of time to go through. It's just been incredible, the amount of effort. But what we wanted to do was coordinate our small business resource activities, align that with our workforce activities, and then also programs like our manufacturing extension, really bringing in expertise from all of those areas and many other areas throughout the ACA and throughout the state. Next slide. So many of you already are very, very familiar with all of this. I only put this up here to just give you a quick update. If you're not aware, there's still $110 billion available for PPP remaining throughout the United States. In Arizona, we had nearly 83,000 companies that got PPP loans, and another 45,000 companies that got EIDL loans. So this is pretty impressive if you kind of think about the numbers of the total companies. And then nearly $11 billion injected into those companies with those loans. And I think that that's part and parcel to just the wonderful companies that we have here and the activities that went on to support them. Next slide. On the boot camp itself, what we did, again, daily boot camps, Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 10 a.m., same time, same place. We were able to support participants, nearly 40, actually over 4,700 total participants. We ran 113 boot camp presentations. And again, as I mentioned, we have over 70 partners that were committed to that. So with this, I just couldn't sit and say, okay, well, that was great response for the last 4 months and we'll continue that. How can we turn this into something that can be leverageable throughout the state? Next slide. So we came up with a concept that we would like to drive forward to every reaching part of the state and in our rural areas, our underserved areas, as well as Maricopa County. Turning the boot camp process into a permanent ACA resource by creating what we're calling right now an Arizona Small Business Academy. The concept here is to leverage our partners throughout the state, leverage the locations, especially our community colleges, our universities, our small business development centers, our chambers, and our constituents throughout the state, and create a consistent curriculum and methodology to support small businesses. As I look back on the creation of Venture Ready and the Arizona Innovation Challenge, it was super important to the growth of our tech ecosystem and still remains very important to the gestation of these small technology companies that are beginning to start up. But had we thought about that process and really did kind of an expansive umbrella across the state in multiple locations at the same time and try to share the resources, share the learning, share the curriculum across that, I think we would have had even quicker and more impactful results than we even had today, which have been significant. So the idea of this is to really spread this out throughout the state and have multiple locations. Next slide. So to do that, we want to focus on three major areas. It's one, as most of you know, small business impact has been significant, and it is going to be even greater in significance as we move forward in the next several months. Credit card reporting shows 30 to 35% of the small businesses throughout the United States are actually not running today. So we're hearing estimates anywhere from 30 to 40 and possibly even higher. In terms of closures, a lot of these companies will not survive their current form. So the idea of creation becomes super important to the concept of this academy. The second is to support those companies through education, training, technical support, certification, resources across the board, and looking to really unify that capability. Obviously, cultivate the wonderful entrepreneurship that exists in our state today, which is absolutely amazing, and really bleed that into the DNA of all of this, and then improve with our higher education and help all of the support that's needed throughout the community college infrastructure, and in return, receive support from them as well. Next slide. So essentially, we have three big prongs to this. One, we've created an online platform that we're using for our tech services now, which we think can be beautifully migrated as well to the non-tech small business as well. The next is super important. It's an incubator network that we'd like to create across the state right now. We're talking to many of our community college, university, SBDC partners. We think we can create 20 to 30 of these incubators almost immediately. We start the work on creating that coalition. The second is a small business civic coalition. This is loosely interpreted. We think that it's super important to get our local communities and our leadership and our government involved in that. And many of you have already done such important work on that and showing that leadership. We want to package that and cultivate that as part of this as well, because we need all the support we can get for our businesses. Next slide. The overall picture of this would look like some form of branding and hub in terms of the coordination effort, and the Arizona Commerce Authority is stepping up to develop that. And then again, curriculum, best practices, resource support, the advisory and mentor network that can be shared across multiple locations. And then the wonderful curriculums that have already been constructed by many of these organizations and many others can be infused into this and shared. So kind of think about it in your community. If there is not an incubator like this already, we can affiliate with other incubators that have this capability and then start the formalization of that to help these entrepreneurs and small business owners. Next slide. So that's it. I can answer a lot more questions, but I wanted to keep it brief so I get some ideas. Also answer any particular questions that you might have. Thanks.
Thank you for the report, Mr. Lombard. Appreciate it. Are there any questions from the membership? No questions? Thank you so much, Andy. Appreciate your information and your willingness to present to the Economic Development Committee of the MAG EDC board. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
This item, thank you, Andy. This item is information discussion only, so there is no action taken. Next item is item number 6, which is an update on the regional response to the COVID-19 pandemic. Mr. Anderson will lead the discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If we can go to the next slide. What I'd like to do is talk a little bit about kind of what's happened out there since the stay-at-home orders were issued back in March. Talk about kind of the virtual MAG, kind of what we've done, our transition plan back into the office at some point in the future. And then I want to talk about the impact on our revenue streams too, our half-cent sales tax for transportation, as well as HERF, Arizona Highway User Revenue Fund. So this is a chart showing traffic volumes on the system, and you can really see the impact of the stay-at-home orders, where our average traffic volumes fell to about 63%. What we did, we compared that to the first week in March. And so the first week in March, we consider normal activity. So you'll see that when the stay-at-home orders were issued in mid-March and impact back into April, then you can also see the impact as those as things were loosening up. We saw traffic climb up to about 87% compared to that, once again, to that first week in March. From there, it kind of drops to about 80%. That's about where we are today. That's more has more to do with summer activity as opposed to, once again, this is comparison to the first week in March, and obviously our normal traffic volumes in the summer are less anyway. We go to the next slide. Actually, go to the next one too. Thank you. So traffic congestion, we compared traffic congestion this year during this period to last year. We're running about today about 70% of what we call traffic or delay on the system right now. And so you'll see the first couple of bars on the left-hand side of that chart. Early March, we were 14 and 18% above traffic volumes in 2019. Obviously, the economy was humming, spring training was getting underway, and then you can just see the dramatic fall when the stay-at-home orders were issued. So it's the delay on the system. Obviously, delay is something that builds and builds and builds. And when you reach capacity on the system, that delay function goes right through the roof. Go to the next slide. So heavy truck volume, we saw some decline in the first instance, but overall heavy truck traffic in the valley, in the region, has been about what it was compared to that normal condition again in the first week in March. Go to the next slide. So this is kind of interesting. This is all weekday trip rates. And so we've seen about a 40% reduction in the number of trips on a typical day. And so you'll see this mapped, this is April. So this is when everything was fully shut down. So you see a really dramatic impact on travel around the region. And this, we're trying to get this updated today for more current traffic, but unfortunately we didn't have last year's data handy. Go to the next slide. So at the June Regional Council meeting, we had a great presentation from the Pam Kellehay, from she's President CEO of Blue Cross Blue Shield. This is a campaign that Greater Phoenix Leadership was running, very well received, Mask Up Arizona. I think it really hit a real strong chord with the Regional Council. She presented a lot of data in terms of the importance of masks, and it really was a great resource for the Regional Council too. You go to the next slide. So let me talk about virtual MAG. Obviously, as we know today, all of our meetings are being held virtually. We changed meeting platforms back in June to Zoom, and it seems like it's working pretty well. We have developed a transition plan for whenever we hit the button to transition back into the office. There's like 2 or 3 phases of that plan. So we'll be social distancing. We're closing our break rooms and things like that. So once again, not sure when this would be implemented. We're certainly out all the way through August and likely September too. I think I heard yesterday Mesa's out until mid-October at least. Obviously, this is something we're monitoring on an ongoing basis. It's not something that we can say, hey, on such and such a date, this is when we're moving back.
Mm-hmm.
One of the major stress issues that we have among our staff, and I think this is pretty much across the board in the region, is what's going to happen with school. And many of our staff have school-aged children, don't know what's going to happen yet, and so a lot of anxiety surrounding that. I've told our staff that we will continue to work with them. We'll have extended telecommuting, probably likely through the end of the year, actually, even if we start having public or live meetings in the interim. So with that as a background, we do have some revenue numbers I want to share with you. Our April revenue, which is tied to March activity, our sales tax is down about a little less than 16%. Following month, we're down 12%. And then in June, which is May business activity, our revenues are actually up 2.3%. So once again, I think we see the impacts on revenues so far have not been as significant as we thought they might be. An Arizona Highway User Revenue Fund, that's the fund that's used for road and street maintenance and capital purposes statewide. Almost half, or actually over half of that fund is made up of fuel tax revenues. April revenues, again, that's tied to March activity, was down almost 17%, and May, once again, translates back into April business activity, was down 26%. So big impacts on the Arizona Highway User Revenue Fund. Obviously, with the lower levels of traffic that I showed you on these slides, fuel sales are down, no doubt. So that's something that goes hand in hand. One of the things I want to point out, I'm pointing out to our city managers, is we have to be careful moving forward in the future. Once again, we know that the extra unemployment benefits have been exhausted now. That program is no longer in place. And my rough calculations, a little hard to get accurate numbers on this, but that extra $600 a week in unemployment benefits translated in about $250,000 a month in additional income into the state. So with that program not in place and some of the other numbers that Andy showed you too, and some of the PPP loans, I think that really has softened the impact so far. But unless Congress enacts another package of help, I think we might see some even worse revenue numbers moving forward in the future. So something we have to be very careful about. One thing that ADOT is doing actually tomorrow is re-energizing their expert panel to talk about the assumptions going into the various models they use to produce the revenue projections. So we'll be participating in that and hopefully gain some more insight in terms of what the longer range impact might be. One of the things, MAG, obviously one of our core business areas is transportation planning. How this impacts future long range transportation plan is still unknown. We think there's going to be a tremendous impact in telecommuting, no doubt about it. We think that before this happened, about 8% of our workforce telecommuted on any given day. If that doubles, maybe go up to 15 or 20%, that has a big impact on our system. That really does mean that we can use our system is actually capable of handling more traffic. So once again, I think that's a real positive. We fund the trip reduction program to improve air quality and encourage non-single occupancy vehicle use. So telecommuting is one of the key components in that. And I think the pandemic has really demonstrated to both employees and employers that telecommuting can work. There's some downside. Obviously, having meetings virtually, you lose kind of that face-to-face, being able to see body language. And I think it kind of limit some of the participation in some meetings. But other than that, I think it's worked pretty well. So, Mr. Chairman, that completes my report. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson, for that great report and for the update. Appreciate that. Are there any questions from the membership related to Mr. Anderson's presentation?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this is Mike LaVault. I have a couple of questions.
Sure.
First of all, Eric, I'm pleasantly surprised that our TPT numbers have held up as well. Do you see that largely as a result of the increase in online sales, or why do you think our numbers are staying so strong?
Well, I think there's a couple of things. One, I think you're exactly right. Online sales. I know the Amazon truck comes to my house every day now. You have to find a guest room for the driver, I think. But anyway, that certainly has moderated some of the impact. But I think the stimulus package that came out of the CARES package, the additional unemployment benefits, and the support for business has really helped mitigate the impact on our revenue streams. But as I said, with the extended unemployment benefits now gone, I think we'll see kind of how things trend in the next couple of months. Very interested to see that. We won't know until October. So our October numbers, sounds like a long ways away, but our October numbers are the ones that will be tied to August business activity. So once again, we'll have some insight here in the fall on what happens.
Yeah, and secondly, Mr. Chairman and Eric, how badly do you anticipate that our trading relationship with Mexico is being hurt? I understand it's essential workers only worth at the border crossings. What do you see happening there?
Yeah, great question. We're going to have another presentation on that particular topic today, but we're still waiting for data on that, unfortunately. But I think there have been some serious impacts on our border communities in particular, which is kind of the canary in the mine indication that there's more to come on that too. I think that the international trade aspects, both Mexico and Canada, are significant. And so hopefully, I think in the October EDC meeting, we'll have a presentation with some data on that too for you.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Thank you, Mayor LaVault. Any other questions from the membership? Thank you, Eric, for your presentation. Again,
Thank you.
This item is for information discussion only. Next, we're going to move to item 7, the COVID-19 effect on the Arizona trade and North America. Nathan Pryor from MAG Policy and Government Relations Director will speak on this item. Welcome, Nathan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the Economic Development Committee. Well, I think all my thunder has been stolen on this issue, this item. But to Mayor LaVault's question and point, it has been top of mind for us in terms of measuring impacts with Arizona, Mexico, Canada, and trade. As Mr. Anderson pointed out, we're still waiting for more of the Q2 information, the data to come in. So we'd like to give you a more complete report in the October meeting, but we're also aiming for a September paper to be distributed as well with that information. So a little bit of a sneak preview, look ahead. So look forward to presenting that information when we have it. However, I will take this opportunity to talk about the border crossing card effort. So this is the Southwest Tourism Expansion Act. For those who might be unfamiliar, for a number of years now, we've been working on federal legislation that would allow visitors from Mexico who have a border crossing card to travel statewide. Currently, those visitors can get about as far as Tucson or the Yuma area, so there are limits to their travel. We had a report done with the University of Arizona some time ago showing a almost $200 million impact to Arizona, positive economic impact for Arizona by allowing Mexican visitors with a border crossing card to travel statewide. This has been a really a grassroots effort to date. Our sister agencies, other councils of governments, and metropolitan planning organizations have weighed in a support, as well as have a number of chambers of commerce around the state. So in December, there was actual legislation introduced, again, as the Southwest Tourism Expansion Act. However, with the pandemic, it really gave us pause to think about how do we keep the momentum going on this effort. We've positioned this and argued this as a recovery opportunity for Arizona. And with that, we've seen success in terms of advancing this. In the House of Representatives, Congressman Stanton, as well as Congressman Schweikert, have been the supporters. On the Senate side. Senators McSally and Sinema are also co-sponsor supporters of this effort. We did get the Expansion Act language into the Homeland Security Appropriations Bill. We thought that was going pretty well, that strategy, and that remains our strategy. However, if you've been following the federal appropriations process, the Homeland Security Bill was removed from the larger package of appropriations bills. We're going to continue to track this. We're trying to map opportunities going forward, be it in a continuing resolution for an appropriations, or does something happen in a potential lame duck, or do we have to wait until a new administration, Congress come in? So we're weighing all the options, looking at all the opportunities, but wanted to let you know that we have had significant positive momentum in this effort. So thank everybody who has weighed in and has offered to support to Congressman Stanton, Schweikert, and Senators McSally and Sinema. If you have any questions on this effort, please feel free to contact me. Mr. Chairman, that concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Pryor. Thank you, Nathan, for your hard work on the border crossing card. Appreciate that. Are there any questions from the membership related to the topic? Okay, great. Thank you so much. Next item is number 8. Are there any requests by the membership for an item for the future agenda? Any items that you'd like to hear about? All righty, we'll work with the staff to come up with some agenda items to put on the agenda for October. Are there any announcements? We're going now to number 9, comments from the committee. Are there any announcements from the membership they would like to talk about? All right, so it looks like there's no announcements. All righty, so this is we are concluding the meeting. The meeting is now adjourned. The next meeting of the Economic Development Committee will be held on October 6, 2020. All right, the meeting is now adjourned. Thank you for your participation.